Okay, let's talk about some sentence structure. I have here an introduction. And in this introduction, we have got a couple of parts. Since you guys were asking about intros, here is the hook. The hook in this case, hooks often are context. Sorry, not contrast, context. And so here, the context is of the allegory of the cave. This is the thesis. I have got the author. I've already said Pema Chödrön, so she is a reference to author. I've got the title, although that shouldn't be state, that should be start. What can I say? So there's the title. I have my message. What is it that the author is trying to convey? The idea that humans struggle to accept true knowledge and instead embrace ignorance. And this case, you don't always have to have it, but in this case, I also have what are the rhetorical elements that she uses, and that is personal stories and simple examples. So, what exactly is a bridge? A bridge is going to take one or more words from the thesis. In this case, Pema Chödrön. And it's going to take one or more words from the intro. Plato. Because this sentence can transition to both the top and the bottom, that's called a bridge because it literally creates a bridge structure. So this is a perfectly good intro. However, one of the places where I really want to make sure that I'm using some fancier sentence structures is going to be in the introduction because I want to impress someone right up front with how beautiful I can make my rhetoric. And so it's really important that up front I do that. That does not mean that you should have every single sentence be rhetorically beautiful. It means that you have to grab someone's attention and kind of put on some bells and whistles and say, dude, look what I can do. So the intro is a prime place to show off. So let me start right with my hook. Plato's allegory of the cave suggests that ignorance is the most comfortable state for humans. Well, one of the things I like to do in an intro is kind of build up this sense of suspense. Ooh, where is the student going with that? And one sentence structure that does a really nice job of building suspense is a periodic sentence. Go look up a periodic sentence and you tell me, what is it? Okay, since our main idea is going to be in the back near the period, I want to make sure that I identify where the main idea is. Okay? Ignorance is the most comfortable state for humans. Okay, I'm going to get rid of for humans. It's a prepositional phrase. The most, I can get rid of that. I want that main idea in the end to be as sharp and as clean as possible. So I think I'm going to go for ignorance is comfortable. That is nice and short. But that means I want to build up a lot of ideas in the front with dependent ideas or prepositional phrases or anything else. But I want to save that main idea for a very short, poppy, ignorance is comfortable. In the world famous allegory of the cave by Plato, one idea stands out. Ignorance is comfortable. Now, at this point, here is sort of my idea that I want to stand out. But if you notice, this is an idea and this is an idea. In the world famous Allegory of the Cave, prepositional phrase by Plato, prepositional phrase. And so this part is a periodic sentence by itself because you have one idea stands out, your independent clause is at the end, nearest to the period. But I'm then attaching it to this even more important idea. Now, my question is, how am I going to join these two? I can do it a few ways. I can put a dash. The advantage of putting a dash in here is a dash is going to stand out. It is a less common piece of punctuation, and because it's less common, it does tend to catch the attention. However, it's not exactly correct because a dash normally goes in the place of a comma, and I can't put a comma there, so a dash is not great. Wouldn't be totally wrong, but it's not great. My next option is I can put a semicolon. A semicolon says you're joining two complete sentences, and these are of equal importance, and they're sort of equal ideas. Well, wait a minute. I'm not trying to say they're equal. I'm trying to say that this is the main idea that I'm really trying to make stand out. So that means here in this particular periodic sentence, I am going to choose to put a colon. A colon says that this is the independent clause and this is or general rule, I know, my handwriting is terrible. That's the general rule, colon, this is a specific example. So here, general rule, there's one idea that stands out. The specific example, ignorance is comfortable. So listen to those two different sentences. Plato's Allegory of the Cave suggests that ignorance is the most comfortable state for humans. In the world-famous Allegory of the Cave by Plato, one idea stands out. Ignorance is comfortable. Do you hear that this is the much stronger statement? But in this kind of periodic sentence, this is compound colon, and there are a lot of different kinds of periodic sentences. That just means your main idea comes closer to the period. But this is a compound colon. When you are doing a compound colon, you must remember that you start with the general rule, you have the colon, and you then have the specific example. The general rule must be a complete independent sentence, independent clause on its own. So you've got to have a complete sentence in front of the colon. So you tell me which of these is a correct compound colon periodic sentence. Okay, maybe you don't want to have that compound colon periodic sentence. Maybe you want to use a type of sentence structure called antithesis. What is antithesis? Antithesis is where you have parallel structure. So you have two sentences that are structured the same, that you're linking together, even though the ideas are opposite. So, how about this example? My guess is you've seen it before. So, we have one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And so here, 1, 4, these are the same things. A step and a leap, they're different. man, mankind. So you've got lots of parallel structure in there. And if you notice, it's also parallel because you have adjective, adverb, verb. So that's adverb, adverb, verb, preposition, object of the preposition, noun. So the structure is exactly parallel. So adverb, adverb, verb, preposition, object of the preposition. And that structure being exactly the same really highlights the fact that you have opposites. Small becomes giant. Step becomes leap. Man, which is one, becomes mankind, which is many. And so the opposites stand out more strongly because they are in this parallel structure. And that tends to really stick in the mind. It's why you get phrases like to be judged by the content of one's character instead of the color of one's skin. So parallel structure, opposite ideas, and that's antithesis. Well, I can look up in here and try and find something that I can put into antithesis. Again, antithesis is a big structure, so I want to make sure that I am only capturing main ideas. Do not put an unimportant detail into a big piece of rhetoric. That's foolishness. But let's take a look at some antithesis. So I am talking about how Plato compares knowledge to a man who's always lived in darkness. So Plato is really all about embracing the light. And according to him, most people, the average man, is all about embracing the darkness. Well, that sounds like it could be a really good way to get some opposites going. And because my ideas are opposite, what I would now need to come up with is opposite ideas. I need to get the parallel structure. So let me erase what I have on my notes and let's take a look and see if we can come up with antithesis. Okay, so let's see what we can do. I know that the average man embraces. What does the average man embrace? The darkness of ignorance. So now I need to get parallel structure. And because I'm trying to get this parallel structure, I need to make sure that I am doing the same part of speech and that I am mimicking the actual words as much as possible. So the average man embraces the darkness of ignorance, semicolon, because I want to make sure these two are together. The great man, and honestly, it feels a little awkward to have man, so I might change that to person. The average person embraces the darkness of ignorance. The great person, well, instead of embracing, what do they do with knowledge? Maybe they seek it. So we're starting to get some opposites in there with average versus great. You embrace it. It's already there versus you're having to chase it. Seeks. Yeah. The, not darkness, but light of truth. Okay. So the average person embraces the darkness of ignorance. The great person seeks the light of truth. So I could get rid of, what would I get rid of? I would get rid of that, and then I would pick up from here. Plato's allegory of the cave suggests that ignorance is the most comfortable state for humans. The average person embraces the darkness of ignorance. The great person seeks the light of truth. However, a man who has always lived in the darkness suffers when he walks into the light. In this metaphor, the light becomes painful and blinding. This describes the difficulty people have when they try and leave ignorance and enter a state of knowledge. And so you can see that this fancy sentence that I just wrote, that my pen for some reason won't highlight, I think my pen needs to be charged. This would fit right in here. Now, would you have this sentence be a compound colon periodic and then have an antithesis sentence and have them back to back? No, because if you emphasize everything, then it just starts sounding very, very awkward. And at that point, the AP board is going to suspect that you don't understand that strong rhetoric draws attention to a main idea. And they're going to assume that you think you should just throw strong rhetoric everywhere. So you would choose to either have that periodic sentence here or have the antithesis sentence here, but you would not have both. You would not put two strong pieces of grammar back to back. That would just be poor writing. So which one is better? Well, it depends on what it is you're trying to emphasize. Remember, when you have strong rhetoric, you are emphasizing whatever sentence you put the strongest rhetoric on. So you have to make that decision about what you're trying to emphasize. Are you ready to keep going? Okay, this time let's play with a sentence structure called an elliptical sentence. You know how to use Google. You go look it up and you tell me what an elliptical sentence is. Okay, an elliptical sentence is going to be parallel in structure. So you're going to have two main ideas that are parallel in structure, but one of them is actually going to have the verb missing. So how am I going to do this? Well, let's go back to this idea of, the average person, the ignorant person versus the seeker of knowledge. So, great thinkers, that works even better than people. Seek knowledge. Okay, so that's my first sentence. So now I need my second sentence to be parallel. But in this sentence, I'm not going to talk about great thinkers. I'm going to talk about average. Now, here is where it's going to be different. I must have the exact same verb. It cannot change from seek to seeks. So if this is plural, this must be plural because the verb has got to be 100% the same. Now, what do average thinkers seek? Well, what does Plato say? Average thinkers seek comfort. Or safety. It doesn't matter. But here's how it's now going to work. My first sentence, it's going to be just like normal. Great thinkers seek knowledge. My second sentence, semicolon. Average thinkers comma, comfort. And you're now going, what? By the way, if I don't want to repeat thinkers, I can say ones, and that pronoun will tie it right back to thinker. So, great thinkers seek knowledge. Average ones, comfort. Do you hear how very, very strong that is? So the semicolon separates these two main ideas. So the semicolon says each of these is a complete idea in and of itself. So what is this comma doing? This comma is actually replacing the verb from the front half and dragging it through over here. That's why it's called elliptical. Ellipses, ... means something is left out. Elliptical structure in sentence means a word is left out, but English speakers can figure it out. So great thinkers seek knowledge. Average ones, comfort. What's the advantage of an elliptical structure? It is unusual, and that means it acts like a stop sign. It makes the reader go, whoa, wait, what? Let me look at that again. It's a very strong structure. You don't want to throw it around a lot, but it draws that parallel structure in very tightly. And then because of that elliptical structure, it really slows the reader down and makes them look at the sentence twice. So that is another really high level structure you can go for. So that one I might slip in maybe right here. Right here might be better. Would I have the first sentence be a compound colon periodic and then put an elliptical structure here? No, too much and too short of a period. So I would pick one place to have really strong rhetoric in here. I wouldn't have umpteen pieces of strong rhetoric. If you have one stop sign that says, whoa, wait, stop, slow down, look at this again, that's going to make the reader go, damn, yeah, that's good. If you're driving down a street and every time you start to get up to speed, oop, stop, oop, stop, oop, stop. If you keep shouting at the reader to stop and look at this, stop and look at this, stop and look at this, it becomes very choppy and very awkward. So you don't want to overuse rhetoric. Are you ready to take a look at another option? Okay, this time I want you to go and I want you to go look up anaphora. Go on, do it. Look it up. You tell me what it is. Okay, anaphora, because you are repeating that opening phrase before you're getting into the main idea, it is oftentimes a type of periodic sentence because your independent clause is going to be back here and you're going to be repeating phrases. But because you are repeating phrases, that repetition is going to end up being very, very, well, if you do it wrong, problematic. If you do it correctly, it's going to really drive home the point. Okay, so this is an example of anaphora taken from literature. So, to think on death, it is a misery. To think on life, it is a vanity. To think on the world, verily it is. Well, what is it that's getting repeated? You've got to think on death. It is a misery, period. To think on life, it is a vanity, period. To think on the world, verily it is. And so you've got 3 sentences. In each of those sentences, you have this repetition of to think. And so what the author is really doing here is they are emphasizing the importance of thinking deeply about these subjects. So if I want to do anaphora, I would have to decide, okay, what is the important part of this hook that I really want to repeat and I really want to drive home? Well, I would say that the important part of the hook probably has something to do with ignorance versus knowledge. So you take a look at these and you tell me which of these are good anaphora. Okay, so let's take a look. Seeking knowledge is painful. Seeking knowledge requires admitting to ignorance, but seeking knowledge is the only way to escape the darkness of ignorance. So we've got seeking knowledge begins this independent clause. We then have seeking knowledge requires admitting ignorance, comma, but, that's our coordinating conjunction. Seeking knowledge is the only way to escape the darkness of ignorance. These are starting separate independent clauses, even though these last two are joined together with a coordinating conjunction. But this is still anaphora because what we have are three independent ideas that all start with the same idea. So in this case, the anaphora is not a periodic sentence because the main idea is not in the back end, close to the period. So in this particular case, anaphora is not a periodic sentence. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. But in this case, we are repeating, and this is what makes it anaphora, we are repeating the part that we are trying to drive home to the reader. In this case, seeking knowledge, seeking knowledge, seeking knowledge. Should you have a compound colon, periodic sentence, antithesis, elliptical sentence, and an anaphora all in an intro? God, please, no, don't. But what you should do is pick one. Maybe two, depending on how you phrase it, but you definitely don't want to overdo the rhetoric. What I want you to do right now is I want you to take a look at the sample paragraph that I've given you here, this one with Pima Chadron, and I want you to go back and I want you to rewrite the introduction on your last paper. And I want you to, in that rewritten introduction, underline the one truly powerful rhetorical moment that you use to drive home a main idea to the reader. Remember, introduction, the closure of your body paragraphs, your conclusions, these are power positions. So make them powerful. So go, give it a try. See what power plays you can make in your own writing.